This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. I'm Craig O'Neill, and this is Speak Up, Effective Communication. I have a story to tell you. It has to do with two things that I enjoy talking about the most. One of them is rucking. A lot of you who have heard me know I enjoy rucking as a physical fitness regimen. And of course, I enjoy talking about speaking. Both of those things are something I'm passionate about. Both of those things do stretch my comfort zone on occasion. And when we're talking about professional development, stretching outside of our comfort zone is an important topic. I'm going to get into how a recent rucking event, a marathon distance ruck, also led to a story where speaking up was necessary for me to prevent a crime. And if you followed me on social media before, you may have seen something of the story. The local cemetery around my home was vandalized, and I saw and was able to film the person in the act. I'm going to tell you that story and how it came to be and what I learned about communication from this experience. But before we jump into the story, first, let me express a sincere thank you to all of the sponsors who make this show possible. I couldn't do this without you. Your support means the world for me. Let's hear from our sponsors now. With the Institute's coaching, leave a legacy that endures. Foster careers and drive community impact. Start your journey today at wearetheinstitute.com/business-assessment. Your partner in technology, AutoFlow is able to enhance your client interactions before, during, and after the visit from a single thread. To see how AutoFlow makes it simple, visit autoflow.com. Are you tired of juggling multiple tools to manage your auto repair shop? Say goodbye to the chaos and hello to streamlined efficiency with AutoLeap, the #1 all-in-one auto repair shop management software. With AutoLeap, you can sell more, save precious time, and delight your customers with every interaction. Your trusted companion, ShopDog Marketing, is right by your side, attracting the best customers and building long-term growth. Call ShopDog Marketing today or visit shopdogmarketing.com. Unlock your communication insights with Inbound's AI-powered call analytics for auto repair shops. Learn more at callinbound.com. Okay, as I indicated, I have a story for you today, and it does begin with a little bit of my rucking journey. It has to, because this is an important piece of the story for me, and I'm not going to go into details about a long, lengthy ruck. That's really long, and not a lot of interesting things happen. There's some beautiful scenery, some sore feet. You get hungry, you get tired, and then eventually you get to the finish line and you feel great. There's probably more to say on that subject, but the one thing that does not feel great after you go for a long distance ruck is undoubtedly your feet. Now, when I go through these sort of things, I'm very proud of this event. The Rucking Marathon in Traverse City, it was beautiful. It marked 1 year of having a rucksack and doing this activity. It was a major goal for me. It was well outside of the range that I've ever gone before. Normally, a half marathon is the furthest I'd gone. In this particular case, I actually did a marathon plus an extra mile. And I think the extra mile piece is kind of a neat theme for the story here, because when I got home and as I was recovering from the longer distance ruck, I had a pretty sore spot on one of my feet, and it was really difficult for me to continue with my other goal for the year, which is my daily 5K. And I had to, first night back home, I was switching different shoes. I was shuffling in sandals, tried a different pair of flip-flops after that, different pair of running shoes, and kept having to return home because it was a piercing pain, and I was nearly going to cause my foot to bleed, which would have been a big setback for my goal for the rest of the year. I wanted to avoid that. But it was a struggle getting any distance in throughout the week until finally Thursday night, I'm actually feeling pretty good. I did a lap around the cemetery by my home the way I normally would. Now, as this story unfolds, there's one thing I want to point out is I'm generally very aware of the cemetery around my home. This is something that I do on a regular basis. It's a beautiful place. If you're looking at our podcast on YouTube, I'll show you a picture of the cemetery here, and it's deer are out. The geese are migrating right now. It's very peaceful, green space for me to be able to experience some nature, but still be in a area that's not far from home, has paved trails, and it's generally good for any kind of physical fitness. Lots of people jog, walk, bring strollers, bike. It's just a great green space like you would have in really any city. As I was walking through the cemetery, I did see a individual that seemed a little bit suspicious, but he was just wandering around the grave sites. And sometimes you'll see that people just wander along. It's a very old cemetery, and it's kind of interesting to go through and see how old some of those dates are on those tombstones. In this particular case, there was a little bit of a vibe that I picked up off the guy, but I didn't really pay too much attention. Just a mental note as you're walking about. Sometimes you just are aware of your surroundings, as you should be, and kept going about my way. Now, as I neared the end of the first lap around this area, I had a choice to go home, and I nearly did. My foot was still pretty sore, and I thought about going and swapping some footwear or something again, but I figured, all right, no, we're just going to embrace the discomfort. We're just going to push through it, and I'm glad I did, because as I started into lap number 2, this is when I saw that same individual had crossed to a different part of the cemetery. And in front of me, I could see him pick up something and smash it down to the ground, which was interesting because at first when I saw this between the trees that I was looking down, it was well over 400 feet away probably when I saw this. My first reaction to being shocked at seeing someone smashing the statue wasn't shock at all. It was just a little bit of bewilderment, like, oh, maybe it's a cemetery worker and they're working on something and it involves maybe opening a cement bag, and that's what I saw. I don't know. I had no idea. Then I saw him pick up immediately after that which was clearly a statue of Mary from one of the grave sites, and smash that down too. And that was pretty obvious what I was looking at here. Now I'm scrambling to pull my phone out, pull it out, and what I was able to film and see is something that I've now shared with police and a news station, actually several news stations. And I'm going to play that for you now so you can actually hear the beginning of what triggered a series of events that I find it very interesting, especially my choice of words. You'll see.
Hey! Knock it off!
Now, in that video, at the top of the video, if you replay that, you would see the individual actually throwing down one of the cemeteries. So yeah, useful for the police, I believe, in that context to have that. It was rewarding to be able to get the video. But now, mind you, let's go back into what my mind was doing in that moment. As I yelled this to the person, immediately got the attention. And this is kind of an important piece. I guess I shouldn't really go over this. To project your voice loudly in an assertive way to try to get somebody to stop doing something that is desecrating a sacred place. I think that's something we don't necessarily plan or prepare for. Maybe police officers or some of my friends in the military would have trained for more things like that. I was a little surprised that came out of me. My kids might not be surprised. I'm pretty sure they have heard me yell, hey, knock it off a number of times, but probably not that loud or with that much seriousness. In this particular case, it did get the attention of the individual, and it wasn't the kind of attention that I wanted. I was alone at this point in the cemetery. There were no other people around other than me and that vandal, and he began immediately making threatening gestures. So, of course, I called 911 immediately. At this stage, and this is probably one of the more frustrating moments in this whole story, my call with the 911 operator was, I'd love to get the recording of that. That'd actually be kind of interesting. A little frantic because the guy was following me initially. And that's exactly what I was describing to the operator on the phone and encouraging them to get police here immediately. And I was able to explain that someone's smashing some stuff in the cemetery and police are right there all the time. I expected to hear the sirens turn on and somebody roll in almost that minute. It would have been great if that were the case. That was absolutely not the case. Very quickly, the person stopped following me, and I was far enough away that I turned and I just kept following them from a distance while talking to the 911 operator and describing where the person is now going. Initially, they were going to go towards the neighborhood, it looked like, and now they're walking back through the cemetery. And I distinctly remember the 911 operator making sure I was safe, but then telling me they have to clear the line. I was like, what? No, stay in line with me. This is ongoing right now. What else do you have going tonight that's sober? I mean, maybe there is something major. I don't know. But I assume my city, of the size that it is, has plenty of 911 operators and lines open, and evidently they seem to be a little overwhelmed. In either case, effectively, They wouldn't transfer my call to the police or anything else. They ended the call. And I was a little dumbfounded, as now I'm still alone in the cemetery following someone who's just desecrated the place, and I don't know what to do, except I call my wife. She didn't pick up her phone immediately, but I knew who it could call, who always has phone in hand these days. Not necessarily a compliment, but my son, I will compliment in this point. He had his phone in hand. He answered it quickly, and he answered the call as he got my wife and drove down to the cemetery to be near me so that if I needed a vehicle getaway or any extra hand, they were there to provide that, which empowered me to continue following where I saw the person go. And that's where really the next sequence of events came in. And I'll continue to play a video in the background here as I describe this. I was able to see the person walk up a path, and I'm showing the video if you're watching this on YouTube. And that path leads towards some park facilities. On the other side, there's ballparks, there's playgrounds, there's soccer fields and basketball courts, you name it. It's a nice park in our neighborhood. And I took my time following there. Once my wife and son arrived, it was a little bit easier for me to get to the point where I could cross through that area. Tight corridors. I didn't want to walk into that spot alone in case the person who was aware I was following him decided that he would ambush me. But that is what I did. I walked through the path. And then there was another point where there was an altercation. I'll play that audio here.
Hey! No. You go about your way, man. But don't come back here. Don't come back. You can't smash cemeteries, dude. Break your steam somewhere else. Can't hear you. Don't come closer.
Yeah, so what you might not have been able to hear in that is he said, "You want to die?" It was one of the phrases that I actually could hear. That's when I replied no. But everything I did after that, as I've analyzed this, I've had time to analyze this and think about what was going on. My son and my wife were behind me in the vehicle. At this point, the guy wasn't making any moves towards a weapon or anything. I didn't feel like we were in any immediate danger. And I'll caution some people, as I shared this story on social media, we were very much like, "Oh, you made that threat, I would have put him down," type of a statement. It's like, no, there's a playground behind the guy and to the left. A little bit hard to see in that video, but no, you wouldn't, and he wasn't moving towards me. There would have been no cause for a deadly altercation in any sort of context, even if I were armed with a deadly weapon in that moment, which I was not. So what was I trying to do? I was trying to give the guy an exit, very much in the belief that the police were on their way. I expected them to arrive at any time, and that's exactly why I said, "Go about your way, and I'm just going to keep following you from a distance and tell the cops where you are." It's the whole plan. That's all the plan that I had, and that was what I expected to happen imminently. Guys, the cops never showed up. The cops were actually a little disappointed when I talked to a few of the officers that picked up this case later on. It does sound like there probably was a dispatching error and that they really wish they had been there. I learned some other things too throughout some conversations, and it sounded like they actually had a confrontation with that guy earlier in the day, but he had committed no crime at that point and there was no justification to arrest him. Those are all very concerning facts. But what we were definitely dealing with, I learned, is an individual who is off, who is not in his right mind. And if you're asking yourself, who's going to go through a cemetery and desecrate grave sites and smash statues, two things really kind of come to mind for people. Either some kind of roving gang of teenage kids out there for just raising heck, or some other scenario like this where the person's just out of their mind. This is not something I feel like a rational person is going to do. It seems like even some criminals that would go out there and commit crimes would stop short of this sort of a crime.
Imagine taking on each day with a team that cares about doing more. They're motivated, skilled, humble, and hungry. They're invested in your shop's success because that success helps them do more than just sell jobs and fix cars. At the Institute, we believe a thriving business is built on its people. Our comprehensive coaching and peer groups help you become a leader who is capable of inspiring your employees to reach new heights, capable to deliver exceptional customer service, and capable to grow your business into a respected pillar of your community. Start your legacy at wearetheinstitute.com/business-assessment.
It's time for today's Suck Less Spotlight from AutoFlow. Today's spotlight is on Advisor eye twitches. Listen, clients like to stay informed throughout the repair process, and studies indicate clients are most satisfied receiving text updates versus phone calls. But call you they will, interrupting everything from estimating to quality conversations and your game of solitaire. That is, unless you text them first using AutoFlow. With AutoFlow's automated text updates, your phone only rings for the right reasons. That way, with less phone interruptions, your eye twitch will definitely suck less. For this and more things that could suck less, visit AutoFlow.com. Say goodbye to the chaos and hello to streamlined efficiency with AutoLeap, the #1 all-in-one auto repair shop management software. No more headaches, no more wasted hours, just smooth operations and happy customers. But hey, don't take our word for it. Experience the magic for yourself. So what are you waiting for? Head over to AutoLeap.com and book a demo today. Let AutoLeap revolutionize the way you do business. Do it all with AutoLeap. AutoLeap, where efficiency meets excellence. AutoLeap is by your side every step of the way. Want to see your auto repair shop thrive? Are you looking to drive more customers to your auto repair shop? Let ShopDog Marketing be your guide. Our customer-first approach, combined with AI-driven creative content, ensures top rankings. Dominate mobile first and voice search with our specialized expertise. Reach out to ShopDog Marketing today and start growing your business. Don't miss out on this chance to boost your business. Visit shopdogmarketing.com. Every professional auto repair shop needs a trusted communication partner. At Inbound, our established VoIP platform is backed by years of industry experience, guarantees reliable connections, and is combined with cutting-edge AI-powered analytics. We deliver actionable insights that support your business growth. With Inbound, you get more than just calls. You get a smarter, more efficient operation. Get Inbound on your team today and see how we can transform your business. Visit callinbound.com. So where I'm going with this is, like, I don't want it to seem like I was recklessly going after a guy trying to be some vigilante. I was hoping to just keep sight of him for the police to come up and take care of it. And as I was communicating more on this with the police officers later on, we all felt kind of the same on this. This was sort of a fundamental breakdown. Where we're going next, though, is like once we lost sight of him, and I had to keep a distance, and I think he just took off running once he got behind some trees. I knew generally where he went, and it turns out there was another section of that cemetery on the other side of the park that also had sites desecrated. Yeah, I wasn't going to go following in those areas. It's cramped spaces. It's getting darker at this point. But my wife, son, and I went back to the cemetery to survey the aftermath. And I'll play another video of this with no audio. But if you're looking at this on YouTube, you'll see scanning the area with a flashlight. And for the first time after seeing the crime happen, looked at and surveyed the damage. And we lost count, really, of how many grave sites were smashed. Large tombstones are tipped over. There's really about a 6-foot statue of Jesus that was toppled. Many statues of Mary completely smashed. Flower pots smashed, dirt everywhere. Flowers and flags strewn about. Grave sites where there's American flags for men and women who've served were tipped over and littered on the ground. It is really just a horrifyingly frustrating thing to see. And at this stage, I was really frustrated. And if I were playing the audio, you would hear me expressing the degree of which, of how awful this is. And my wife and son collectively recognizing, like, police aren't showing up. Like, what do we do? Do we call the news? And basically that's what we did. This turned into 3 different interviews, interestingly, 3 different news stations, News 8, WZZM 13, and then Fox 17. Both in my hometown. So over the weekend, talking to 3 different news sites, it's kind of the next point that I'll make on this from a communication standpoint. After sleeping on it all, I filed a police report that night when I got home. My adrenaline was going until probably 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. I can't even remember what time I finally went to bed. But filed a police report, didn't hear anything back from them for a full day. We were heading into a holiday weekend, and I don't know if that impacts things or not, but it seemed sluggish. The news was not. The news was not. So the very next morning, they asked if I could pop down to the cemetery and do an interview. And I did that. And I'll link those in the show notes if you're interested to see what those interviews look like. Now, there's some comedy to this as I look back to it now. And maybe it's too soon for some of you to be able to laugh at an event like this. But after we walked back to the cemetery and started surveying the aftermath, and I'll show a video here and you'll be able to see this on YouTube, the damage was frustrating to see. Large tombstones had been tipped over, flower pots smashed, of course, statues of Mary shattered all over the place. A large 6-foot statue of Jesus was toppled over. Fortunately, it wasn't destroyed. But these are grave sites, some of them very recent, some of them for soldiers who have served, and the American flag is there strewn on the ground, and flags with pictures of family members. There was some recent case back in, I think it was 2021, one of the families had who lost a son to gunshot victim, has a grave site over there, and that was just scattered all about. And these families visit these very regularly. It'd be a very insulting, frustrating thing to see this stuff. And we felt that same sort of rage as we walked around. It's dark, and you see my flashlight moving across things here. But if I were sharing the audio, I would have to filter a lot of it out because there's dismay, disbelief, and frustration that this could happen. The guy had likely been in that cemetery probably for hours. And remember, I had mentioned I had seen him earlier on the walk and had that vibe. I noticed him wandering across sites. I didn't at that point really notice the damage at all. And it kind of bothers me that I didn't see it sooner. I don't know how many other grave sites I could have stopped, but there were more people around. Might have been better. I don't know. We'll never know on some of that stuff. But one guy did this for a while, and doing it in daylight, I have to believe, again, obviously he's out of his mind. This is something that maybe he wanted to be caught. Maybe it is a cry for help. Who knows? All speculation. All I do know is cops didn't show up that night. That was super frustrating. We called the news. The news stations were definitely interested. I was starting to get emails back from the news, eager to pick up the story and receive the images and videos that I had taken throughout the night, and I provided those for a few stations. They needed to collect the signature. I couldn't even pay attention to it for a large part until the following morning. But then interview 1 of 3 happened very quickly. So News 8, WGZM 13, and Fox 17. I'll link those 3 different news sites in the show notes later on, because that's really where this goes next, is the news interviews. Being someone who's consistently practicing communication, you would think interviews go pretty smooth, and they do. They did. I felt like they went pretty good, but it's interesting the type of emotion and energy that goes into a news interview, the same as you do in a conflict. So there's multiple things, and I don't like laughing at some of this stuff too much. It's a little early, maybe, to laugh. I mean, if you look at all these videos and images and things, it's frustrating. Let's not lose sight of that. But where I'm going is this. My first choice of words, and I mentioned this in one of the news interviews, is like, knock it off. Hey, knock it off, was really comically a bad choice of words for the crime that was being committed. But again, you're not planning your words on this sort of stuff. This isn't what you're going to do. We'll get to the next thing in a second here. There is another layer of frustration I have. You heard that other piece where I told him, go break your steam somewhere else. You also heard the spot where he said, want to die? And I said, no. Now, that ruck that I did, that marathon, the evening I was with my family after that, I could sit down and I could lay in bed in the hotel. We could watch a movie. And the movie we ended up watching was Tombstone. And so as I think about it, in hindsight, too, is like anyone who knows the movie Tombstone and the famous quotes from Doc Holliday and I'm your Huckleberry, that's just my man. There would have been some rich quotes I could have thrown out there in that moment. In the moment, in intensity, in crisis, you can just pretty much kiss all that sort of thing goodbye. That's something that actors in movies, I think, get, and maybe people who are really well trained on things, but definitely, at least for me, not what comes out in a moment of crisis. And I think that's kind of an interesting thing. One of my friends had a funny quote, too, from a stressful scenario. Stressful scenarios, your word choices, although they may matter direly, that is something that you'll probably look back on and think, well, that was dumb. and that's really how I feel about it. But the interviews, they went pretty well. There was another funny thing with the interviews, I thought, though. In all 3, I mentioned that I walk in the park, but I mentioned the rucking, and it is rucking. There's a verb for it. I'm a rucker. I've been called a walker in the one interview, a jogger in another, and a runner in another. I don't think the news anchors were very comfortable with the term rucker. I think it rhymes too much with other things, and it just wasn't in the vocabulary or going to flow very easily for them in their news cycle. Kind of a funny piece as well. But here's where I saw the positive side start to come out, and that is after the news story, the first one went out, the activity in the cemetery was actually quite beautiful. There was so many more vehicles coming through. There was a lot more people walking. Once they had seen that, now, of course, it's a point of interest, but it's good that it was a point of interest because there's a reclamation of the space that I saw very necessary for those of us in the community to be a part of. And walking through there, having done the interviews recently, it was interesting because a few people are saying, "Oh, you're the guy in the news," and it's kind of a neat experience. Not one I've had before that I can think of, and fortunately, in the news for a good reason for myself, at least, not a bad reason. But it opened up conversations that I would never have had in that cemetery before, and I met families, and they started telling me the stories of their family all throughout that space. They were saying, "Oh, over on that hill over there on the other side is where my grandparents are born. And then my father's site, unfortunately, was hit." And like they're telling, like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry about your father's gravesite and all this stuff." So like, "Oh no, but you saw the guy. What was he like?" And I was able to describe the guy. This guy wasn't mad though. And then as I explained, like the guy was off, like he was clearly a very sad individual. One other word that I didn't mention this earlier that the vandal actually had said is he didn't care. It was hard to hear in that video, but I could pick up that he didn't care. He's suffering. It's an afflicted individual. And God bless these families who were impacted by the crime, because what I noticed is once they understood that this was an afflicted individual that committed this crime, their anger dissipated. And it turned more into even some empathy for that individual who committed the crime, which I thought was extraordinarily powerful and extraordinarily healthy as well. Another family I met really punctuated what I'm taking away from this event as well, and that is their gravesite. They recognized me, and I was walking through there, and they had just arrived, and they were surveying the damage, but they were going to go find their family's plot. It's sometimes hard to do in a cemetery. But I walked with them and talked with them for a little while and found their site, and they were just absolutely relieved to see theirs was intact without any damage. Very relieved in that moment. But they continued to tell the story of their family around the cemetery and how all the people in that plot are there. And this woman had lost 2 sons. And she says, "These are my boys right there." She points to the 2 tombstones, fairly recent. 2020 in December was one, and another one as recent as 2023. And she told me that both of her boys struggled with addiction. And 2020, 2023, even early 2023 for sure. Anyone who was alive in those years understands what those years were, COVID and post-COVID, very stressful time for a lot of people. And the fact that there is this woman who's relieved that this plot is there, all the things that are going on. We had a mentally off individual who later I found out from police, they may know the guy, not certain, but they may. And if it is the case, yeah, he has a social worker. He's supposed to be getting treatment, struggles with addiction and some other things potentially. They don't give me any details there, but it sounded like they had more than one interaction with the individual. But if it is an addiction case or a mental illness case, in either case, seeing those 2 stones there for that family and knowing how that individual, maybe it was someone else that found him that night, maybe it was an altercation that came with a police officer. Maybe it's good that there wasn't any further interactions that evening with the individual, and they'll find him on better terms and in a better state of mind where it'll be a peaceable outcome and he gets the help he needs. Who knows? There's a lot of possible scenarios there. But what I'm walking away with on this whole thing is that, it's interesting. A moment occurs where you're stretching yourself. I could have turned and gone home, and none of this would have been a story that I get to live with. It punctuates a major goal of mine that was just a personal goal of doing that marathon. And it turned into, wow, all right, this personal goal and this journey that I've been on had a positive impact on the community. Being able to give the police the evidence they need to force the guy, hopefully, to get help, being able to let the families who were impacted by this know that, yes, it was one individual, not a random mysterious group of people who we'll never find, right? We know something about who the person was. It allowed the anger to dissipate. It brought the community out there more. And there's more people walking. There's more cars coming to visit. The weekend of Labor Day weekend, there was people in that cemetery all the time. They would stop and they'd be watching the deer as well. I felt like I had more company again on those walks. I do not mind solitude either on my walks, but it's great to see more people out and about, and it feels more of a safe place when that is the case. So tragic event, yeah, but you know what? By the day 3, and I was doing the interview with Fox 17 station, the cemetery was largely put together, because I also learned the cemetery office, they had people working overtime over the weekend cleaning up most of that damage. And the coolest one was, and so appropriate, I made a post on this on social media. It was day 3 and the statue of Jesus was re-erected. I thought that was a nice little punctuation piece on there, but it was cool. It was really amazing how quick things came together to restore the space. And I wonder how quick it might have been, or how long it could have been before it got reported otherwise. Who knows? Who knows? But I guess the thing is like, hey, you know what? You're working on your personal goals. You never know what it is when you have a daily place you go. You never know what sort of situation can come up, but be out there. Don't be afraid to speak up too much, but be safe, be smart about it. My wife was not happy that I chose to follow the guy, especially before she arrived as well, especially since the police didn't arrive. Yes, we've reevaluated some of our safety protocols for any scenarios like that come up again. Absolutely. And you probably should too, if this story can encourage you to do that as well. So you do feel confident in speaking up. Awesome. But really, I think there'll be more to this story as it continues to unfold. I think there's definitely some of my friends who have seen there's some humorous elements that I haven't shared here as well that came from this. But yeah, it was a really oddly impactful event that I guess in the end, I'm very proud of how I performed on that. And I don't know that the same version of me a few years ago would have even been out there walking, that would have had the confidence to pull the phone out necessarily and do that. There's times in life that ebb and flow on this sort of thing. And yeah, keep working on yourselves out there. You never know if it is just going to impact you. But the whole idea of improving your communication skills or your physical fitness is that you can be stronger and healthier. And the ultimate goal of that is that you can be an asset to your community. This was a great moment for me. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I look forward to telling you more again. As always, folks, I am always interested in hearing topics you want to hear about. You can reach out to me at speakup@craigoneal.net. Send me an email. If you want to have a talking point or you would like to come on the show and discuss a topic that's important to you, I'd be willing to talk to you about what that might look like. So please reach out and definitely visit our sponsors. Thank you again to all of you who have made it possible for me to do this program. We'll see you all next time. Remember, before you speak up, listen up. Have a good day.
You've been listening to Speak Up, Effective Communication with Craig O'Neill on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Craig on your favorite podcast listening app and on his YouTube channel. Let him know what you'd like him to speak up about. Craig is all for advancing the automotive service aftermarket.